We were hoping to record this, and so
Okay.
tell your friends if they couldn't make it today that they can see the recording on our website. It won't record the breakout rooms, but it will record what we talk about in this big group. Okay, that was all I wanted to say. I think, Brandon, we can probably just start with the presentations.
I agree. So, up, do we have, I'm looking through.
The first person, where we get to say that Veterans Outreach of Wisconsin could not make it today. We were hoping to hear about their tiny houses for veterans project, but maybe at a future event. They just couldn't make it today.
Okay. So next is Ania Leonard from UBlack.
Ania, you're
Thank
muted.
you.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank
So
you.
address us how you guys address racial inequity and affordability in your work.
Yeah. So thank you for the opportunity. My name is Ania. I rock my UBlack hat, but I also am primarily showing up as Brave Green Wave Tribe. And I also own my own business, Enchanted Work. And right now, well, this past week, Brave Green Wave just announced that we are in partnership with 21st Street Co-op, and they're helping us acquire a building so that we can, be able to fulfill our vision, which is creating a housing co-op for Black and queer people in Milwaukee. And so it's specifically people who keep experiencing displacement repeatedly. And so how we're planning on addressing, uh, housing inequity, racial inequity, all of those things is being very specific about how we are targeting like different groups. Like I said, specifically, we want to reach out to the Black and queer individuals. Last year, right before COVID, a lot of the people in my circle were being evicted and just losing access to housing resources. Myself, I was homeless for about a year and a half at the time. And I can say right now that I'm, housed and I appreciate it, but I'm also in a program that is very limiting and not everybody has access to it. And because I fit certain, criteria and stuff, I was able to still access it. But there's still things that, are left for us to pick up, for me to pick up really. And so what that means in this co-op, we have the vision of creating like a support system, a system of resources. So you're not only building equity and you're building, you're not just building resources so that you could manage your own place in your own house or whatever, but we're also looking to help people identify their passions, what they're willing and capable of doing, and how they see themselves building sustainability. And so,
And thank you.
For me personally,
Thank you, Ania, for your brief summary of what you guys are doing. Next up on the list is Walter Giron. I don't see him in the room thus yet on the call, so we'll come back to him. Next up is myself with Cooperation Milwaukee. And essentially, to keep it brief, is we are an offshoot of the Milwaukee Democratic Socialists of America, and we came together to further the development of the solidarity economy in the city of Milwaukee by tackling housing, cooperatives, and other kind of democratically ran and owned institutions. One of the things that we, I think, are uniquely situated to provide for people in communities when it comes to housing and whatnot is education. One of the biggest problems is that people don't know that this is an option. You either rent or you own, and you rent and own by yourself and you have your own mortgage or whatever, and don't know that there's other alternatives that will actually empower you. And that's our mission, is education, and wherever we can assist in helping launch these projects, we will engage in that work as well. So that's all I'm saying. Next up, we have Melody from Metcalfe Park. She is here. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Melody McCurtis. I'm with Metcalfe Park Community Bridges. I'm going to try to keep this brief. You know, we are tackling this housing issue because we know that in Metcalfe Park, a primarily Black community with, 76% renters, they're going through a wave of different things when we're talking about not even having access to the finances to be able to own, but majority of their money is going to rent. So we tackle this by first being community led. So one of the community's priorities is intergenerational wealth. So we really break that down to what are the barriers and how do we move through these barriers to make sure everybody has what they need. So one of the things that we're doing right now is purchasing property within the neighborhood for $1 and rehabbing those properties and not moving people from outside of the neighborhood into those properties, but people that live in the neighborhood. So we have a lot of renters that's been renting 20 years, 10 years. And we also have a lot of multi-generational families in the neighborhood. You might have a set of 10 people that lives upstairs of a duplex and their sister and their children lives downstairs. So keeping family together and not moving them away from those vital neighborhood resources that they already have in the neighborhood, mixed with the combination of co-op housing and land trust as well, because we know some people want to be in a co-op, some people don't, but we also want to lock in the land and lock in that housing so that this is something that is sustainable and it ensures that our folks are planted and rooted in their community so they can be able to thrive. So I think I kept it brief, bright, and bold, if that was good. All right.
Perfect. With time to spare. Thank you, Melody. Next up on our list is Supreme Mura Omukunde.
Please, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome, great. So first and foremost, I want to thank Nola Cross for inviting me. We had a conversation about 9 months ago, and we just went on from there. Personally, I'm a big supporter of all co-op everything. We need to have co-op housing. We need to have co-op ownership. We need to have co-op businesses, et cetera. When we look at our communities and the way that we thrive, many of us lived in a communal setting already, or we come up in a kind of communal mindset. And we need to have that carry out into everything else we do with our housing, with our businesses, et cetera. Oftentimes, when we talk about housing and other kinds of conversations, we dance around capitalism and having a conversation about capitalism. And one, because we have to, because of the kind of condition and society that we live in. We live in a capitalistic society, and we don't have the resources to escape it or to build it by ourselves outside of it. And two, and if we knew how to build that system, could we build that system within a system? Could we have a smaller system without it being attacked by a larger system? And so we don't necessarily know how to do that. I think that the pandemic exacerbated our housing challenges. We talk about ownership or renting from somebody, and owner owns the property. We rent to them, and they look at our entire monthly income, and they take their piece off first and say, okay, your entire monthly income has to be 3 times as much because we're going to be looking for our piece first. And so we look at home ownership, we look at our jobs and our ability to rent from someplace. We look at housing discrimination as a whole and who we can legally discriminate against versus who we can't, and then legally discriminating against whoever so we can get the best tenants that we want as property owners. And also we need to, as Melody talked about, we need to be building communal resources and building communal wealth, et cetera. Some of the work that I've done is with neighborhood improvement districts, et cetera, making sure we use some of our tax assessments and put them back into producing for those who live in our neighborhoods, whether it be housing, whether it be community control, et cetera. We don't need, and building a NID also has other people who have business interests in our community. If they want to come do work here, they have to meet with a set of folks who actually live in that community. And so I'll be brief. That's probably my 2 minutes. So I'll just hand it back to you, Brandon. Good to see you again too, bro.
Good to see you as well. And actually, you left a little time on the clock, so I appreciate that as well. So now, looking at our agenda, we're going to be moving into the breakout sessions. In those breakout sessions, we have one, they'll be 20 minutes long, and you have breakout topics times 2. All right, so some of the topics in some of the breakout rooms, we have affordability, which will be facilitated by David Newsom. And you'll discuss community investment guarantee pools and what options help increase equity in housing. Note taker, George Aber or Abert. Next breakout session would be parenting, facilitated by yours truly. How can we make intentional communities attractive to families? Jason Giles will be the note taker in that one. Next breakout room would be physical safety, facilitator, well, Ramon Candelaria, but it's no longer on the call. I imagine Julie, who's the note taker, would step in on that. Thank you. How can housing enhance community safety? And last but not least is placemaking. Facilitator, Mia Noel. How can the physical design of housing foster equity? So, and it also includes like space, sports areas, green spaces, playgrounds, welcoming, and Nola Hitchcock Cross will be the note taker on that. All right.
Can I just quick add, Brandon, you guys are going to have the chance to just go pick, the breakout that you want to be in. And if you get in a room and the conversation is just not, hitting you right, you can always come back to the main room. Alan will still be in the main room and she can help you find a different breakout session if you want to switch around. We're all adults. Go where you want to be and where you're getting something out of the conversation. So, and then just remember that you'll actually halfway through, after 20 minutes, we'll come back to the main room, and then you will have a chance to pick another breakout room and go there and hear a different conversation for the second 20 minutes. Or if you like the room you were in, you can just go right back to the room you were in. So we're going to do that twice, and then we'll come back to the big room one more time and kind of do a debrief.
Julie, did you have any change ups from that lineup? Because there's
No.
switches were good. Okay.
No.
Other than that one person was missing. Okay, everybody ready? Here go the breakout rooms.
Yep.
See you later.
See ya.
Quick question, are we picking our breakout rooms or?
Yes.
Yes, unless you're the facilitator or the note taker, it's free choice.
Okay, and something's gonna pop up, right?
You have to click on the little 4 squares at the bottom of the screen, and then it'll open up the breakout rooms.
I don't even have that.
No?
Yeah, I don't
Nobody can see there's like a thing at the bottom of the screen that says breakout rooms, and it's got like 4 squares.
Julie, I think you need to open them first with
I
the
did open
option
them.
for us to select. Or
I
Alan?
opened them. They're open. The room, I'm looking at them. They're open. If you want to just call out, I can tell you where you want to go. I can assign them. So let's see.
Yeah, I guess if it's not working, just let Alan know which one you want to go in, and
I'm just going to run down the list real quick and just tell me where you want to go, and I'll move you there. So Angela, where do you want to? Which one?
Maybe you want to move the facilitators and the note takers first.
Okay. So Ania, we're putting you in. Let's see. Here, okay.
Can I go to placemaking?
Yes. Okay. Brandon, you're going where?
Parenting.
Okay. And David is going to
Which one?
affordability.
Yeah, David Newsom is going to affordability.
Yes, okay. And Mia Noel?
Placemaking.
Okay. Okay. George, where are you going?
I'm the note taker for affordability.
Okay. Jay. Jay?
I'm in parenting notes.
Unmute. Okay. I just want to be sure I get everybody. Nola, you want to?
Placemaking.
Okay. And Representative Omakundi.
Is it just placemaking, parenting, and affordability?
I've got affordability, diversity and placemaking, family-friendly housing, and housing and physical safety.
Okay. I guess you could put me in placemaking.
Okay. Bruce Colburn.
Put me in affordability.
Thank you. David Stack.
Placemaking, please.
Okay. Gerard Campbell. Gerard Capel.
Affordability, please.
You got it. Melody.
Placemaking.
Okay. Rachel.
Thank you.
Placemaking.
Okay. Trevana.
Can you read the options for me? I joined a little late.
Sure. It's affordability and access, diversity and placemaking, family-friendly housing and parenting, and housing and physical safety.
I'll be interested in going to placemaking.
Okay, that's a big group. Angela, how about you? Oh, Angela, you're muted, honey. Angela, you're muted. I can't hear you. Barbara, how about you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Angela, go ahead.
Placemaking.
Okay. Barbara Kaufman.
Yeah, affordability, please.
Thank you. Okay, everybody's in. Go ahead. You should all be all set. What's up, Julie?
Oh, nothing. Nobody was in my room, so.
Oh, housing and physical safety. Yeah, you're the only one there.
So I came back.
Okay.
Maybe I might
Diversity
sneak into
and-
one of the, I
Well,
might sneak
diversity
into
and
one of
pla-
the other. What?
Brandon and Jay are the only one in family-friendly parenting. If
Oh,
you
maybe
wanna
I'll go in
join
there. I'll go in there. All right.
diversity-
Hey, by the way, before I do that, is there a way for you to add 5 minutes? Because we started early, we're ahead of schedule and it took a long time to get people into the breakout rooms. I don't know
I'll see if I can. I'll see if
you can, that'd be great.
Okay. It doesn't look like it.
Talked about, and I think David Newsome, are you able to summarize what you talked about in the two affordability sessions?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Julie. So we were talking about affordability in co-housing and affordable housing. Quick overview of my organization. We're the Community Investment Guarantee Pool. It's a collaboration between a number of large philanthropic organizations to make guarantees to lenders who lend in affordable housing. Brandon actually summarized it really nicely and more concisely than I ever have, in that he said, like, basically we're co-signers on loans. So we essentially come alongside a lender and guarantee that if the loan goes bad, we will pay for it before the lender loses money. that's a little bit oversimplifying, but that's the gist of what we try to do. What we talked about in our groups were a few things. One is the challenges of co-housing, and that oftentimes it still is very expensive. So we talked about the reality that you might have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars in a down payment to enter a co-housing space in the first place, which doesn't mean that it's affordable. And we also talked about the kind of the complexities of financing co-housing, because you have multiple stakeholders. And so after the construction loan, you need to close with multiple parties. And so it may be a riskier looking transaction than a traditional or non-co-housing type situation. And so those are areas where some creative partnerships with mission-driven banks and mission-driven financiers are important. I'm trying to think back to the first conversation. That's more what we talked about in the second one. In the first conversation, we also talked about the multiple levels of challenges that are related to finances, from building the houses, but also the need for, and this is outside of my purview, but the traumatic effects of eviction, and how eviction can be cyclical, and how the system isn't set up to support individuals, and the kind of financial cost of that for society as well as for individuals. So that was another thing that we talked about. We didn't really come up with a solution to that, unfortunately, but it was a good discussion as a group about the need for creative and compassionate solutions.
There was something that I brought up that wasn't included in your statement. So is there a time to say something about that?
Yes, please do. I'm happy to hand over the floor to you.
Yeah, please. My name is Bruce Colburn. Work for Souls to the Poles, and we're right now working with a number of people on the issue of housing and affordability and those things. And just in this discussion, nobody has even mentioned, we have a chance of a lifetime of doing something about the question of affordability. There is nearly $400 million coming to Milwaukee. $400 million. The mayor has already said the number one issue is fair housing, is affordable housing. It's not the only money that's going to be spent, but it's going to be a big chunk of it. So I think anybody who's really interested in this sort of thing has got to get into this issue, has got to get into this, because otherwise this is going to be decided by the builders and everybody else who makes all those decisions. But this is a once in a lifetime chance because of what happened, in terms of the pandemic and, Biden getting through this money, to be able to have some influence over it. And if people don't figure it out and don't have anything to say, it's going to be business as usual. And here's a chance to raise some of these issues. And so I don't have to do it here, but if people want to talk offline about this, and I know Souls of the Poles and Block and a number of organizations are going to be working on that issue, on those issues, to make sure that people don't get left out of that discussion, which again is something we'll probably never again see in some of our lifetimes at least.
Bruce, would you be willing to put your contact information in the chat so that if people wanted to contact you about that, they could?
Sure.
That'd be great.
I know. Talking to each other about it, because because if you pass up this, I mean, everybody, I really I don't want to, be a jerk about it, but this is something that we're never going to see again, but I will do that.
Well, this is really brought home closely to MAC, because we just lost out on a huge bid that we put lots of money into preparing for that land on North Avenue by Humboldt, and it lost out to building a bunch of Section 8 housing, which is what the city's all about, rather than building family equity, which is what our proposal was all about. So there's city council interference as well.
I know Metcalfe Park has been really involved in looking at where that funding should go to. So you guys got a great resource in Melody here on the call as well.
Yeah, so we sent the letter on Friday, specifically speaking about the ARP money, and I know a lot of y'all signed on in y'all organizations, really asking for a participatory budgeting process, because what we see is that, you know, they vote on what, I mean, we've seen the mayor's priority, and housing is nobody's priority right now. None of our officials, unfortunately, at the Common Council or the mayor. So we're pushing for participatory budgeting and also money to support community-owned housing development and co-ops. And we got over 100 orgs and individuals to sign on to that letter, so we're waiting to hear back. And then tomorrow we're doing a call to action, asking folks to call and email their alders. I can drop that link to the script and the other resources in the chat. And I can send the flyer to Jay. I think that's the best thing. Okay.
Just real quick too, not to go on, but we're also working with the Get the Lead Out Coalition to remove lead laterals and deal with that toxic environmental and racial justice issue, because that is it's directly connected to housing as well, because they're not being removed there's no mandate to remove them. The city has absolutely no plan. And we see high levels of blood lead levels that are outrageous in this country. And that's also part of Biden's plan, was to remediate the toxic lead.
Julie, you're muted.
I muted myself. We should give the other group, the placemaking group, a chance to say, summarize what they were talking about. Mia?
Sure. So our conversation kind of went all over. Our three main ideas that we were trying to go for was how to create a place, not a design necessarily. And so looking at the physical aspects of it and looking at its relationship to its environment, and then building a strong sense of community. So some of the themes I pulled out from the conversation are balancing community and privacy and ownership, right? So making sure people are aware and able to build equity, also making sure that they have the options of being involved in their community, but also have private space should they need that. And then we talked about having a central community space. And I think another big theme that came out was sort of a flexibility. So a space that can move and change and adapt. I think Rachel brought up a really good point about making a space work for the people who are there now, so that there's the option to change a space to fit whatever the current occupants really want. So that if it's flexible, so it could have childcare if it needs to, it could have a community kitchen if it needs to, it can have, I know we had a really good discussion about art and making sure that one idea that came up was having art that's visible from the community, but that can be changed. So it doesn't just stay in place forever, but it can show off different artists and do different things. So we talked about having a central space that, we could watch kids, we could have event spaces. We talked about having grills and shades and seating and making sure it's wheelchair accessible and having tables and benches. We talked about the benefits of having a space that's near public transportation. We also talked about the beauty of porches and how much people really appreciate being able to sit outside and look at their community. And then we talked about the interaction between folks and their communities and their environments. So maybe having something like a social center that's also outward facing. So maybe community childcare. We talked about reentry for incarcerated folks assistance, mutual aid hubs, tool libraries, a worker co-op space, and also a space that, people who work inside the community can also offer services to people around the community. And then we had a really good discussion, which is where we sort of ended with zoning. and what our houses actually folks wanted. So like, is there a worker co-op space? Is there a space to have like working in-home space inside your house that you live in? And then we talked about what zoning can do to improve housing, tenants' rights, and things around zoning and state law suggestions. So I think I captured what I got from my notes, but feel free, beautiful placemaking group, to, you know, jump in and add stuff.
Is Shavana still on here?
No, I think she dropped off.
I just wanted to lift up, you know, Travana was, you know, wanting to know how do we, when we start developing these co-ops, how do we bring in folks from the community that's not a part of the co-op into that? So some of the ideas I have is just like simple things like doing a info pop-up on the block, right? To just say, hey, this is who we are, this is what we've created. You can learn more, you know, different things like that. I know Jay's mentioning, you know, different mutual aid pop-ups. I know Jay does that. We do a lot of those just to bring folks in. And I think we have to do that because when we think about Milwaukee and we think about equity, we need land trusts and we need co-ops. It's the only way that we're gonna make it as a whole and thrive. So it's really important for all of us to share our knowledge and build capacity throughout Milwaukee.
Well,
Thank you for lifting that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Does anybody else want to say something that they feel hasn't been brought up, that we've got a little bit of time? Jay, go ahead, Jay.
Just one thing I was thinking about in terms of, you know, some of the community wealth building. I know we've talked about this in MAC, just about sort of the housing cooperative style in terms of building community wealth or in terms of equity, but that gets kind of into like different models, right? More than anything. Because you can have equity that comes back from a cooperative that's to the individual to an extent. So that's how you can build that community wealth, but it's not like something that you can leverage necessarily to move into another property. But I know that's kind of a larger topic, so.
Well, if we have a few minutes, my question would be like, why, you know, what happened with the family breakout and what's up with families in community housing, and how do we make it afford? I mean, families need bigger spaces than the rest of us, and that means it's more expensive. And how do we deal with that? And you know, how come none of us are in the family? You know, what happened to the family breakout? So I just wondered if anybody had thoughts on that.
I'll say, so I interviewed a couple people that were parents for MAC in January and February. And I'm friends with a bunch of folks who are also interested in co-ops, but are parents. And one of the things that they brought up is that they had to feel a lot more connected to the people that they were building with, right? So it might be like, I'd like to live in a co-op with like my auntie and like my friend and like people who I know, right? But the concept of like moving into a cooperative housing with people that you don't know was a little bit much for them. And that's just like, you know, from those interviews, just a couple people. I'm not saying that's like a general thing. But I think that there was a little bit more hesitancy, especially when you talk about like, what are the parenting, even if we talk about it in like communal parenting, what are our communal parenting ideas, right? Like, do we believe in certain kinds of punishments? Do we believe in certain kinds of authority? Do we believe in like, you know, those are definitely something that came up in those conversations.
I know when we had some discussion about parenting and families and co-housing and cooperatives, housing cooperatives. I know I expressed just being able to pass on those collective values that can come out of being in this communal living, this communal type of living, and allowing children to have the space, to work out their own problems a little bit, and allow them to develop the critical thinking skills to navigate these situations in societies, but then also bringing them into some of the adult spaces to see how actual democratic processes work. Because they don't get it in public school. They don't get it in private school. We mentioned it was a lot of command and obey and being obedient workers. Let's teach them to be obedient workers as opposed to being well-rounded, smart, strong individuals. So that was some of the discussion that we touched upon a little bit and harped on when we had, just three of us, Julie and Jay and myself. And there's probably some other things I missed, but yeah, I yield.
Jay, did you have something you wanted to add to the conversation?
Oh yeah, basically what Brandon said, and that we kind of talked about, in reproducing models of equity in terms of decision making, and just sort of imparting, talking about democracy and what that looks like, what it means, in action for children and in relationships to adults. I know that a lot of us it's difficult to navigate some of that in terms of even just and having the support to be able to do it in a communal environment would be awesome, because a lot of times as parents know, we feel overwhelmed, and isolation is a big part of that too, like feeling like you don't have a broader community to help with. So I think this would be a great way to embody those principles of community and democracy and things like that.
Well, I thought I'd probably just try and wrap things up. We as MAC, this was the first time we really had a community event like this, and it was great to see all of you. As far as next steps, we were actually hoping that at the end of this event, we could have a really exciting announcement that we would have like a great speaker next month. We'd like to kind of have some sort of ongoing conversations of this sort, maybe a little bit more organized around a specific topic with like an expert speaker and then a chance to talk. Unfortunately, we've got feelers out to about 5 people, and I just couldn't quite get anybody lined up for June yet. But I know I follow a lot of you all on Facebook and different places, and a lot of you are on our, I think all of you are on our mailing list. So as soon as we get like our next event scheduled, you'll definitely hear about it, and we'd love to see you come. And there's so many great people. I love what David said, as that he's really inspired. He's not a Milwaukeean, and he's inspired by all the work people are doing. And I know I'm super inspired by what I heard today. I think as MAC, we're really relatively new and just trying to understand what everybody's doing and how can we support what other groups are doing. So we're going to definitely get on some of the stuff Melody put up there in terms of tomorrow, the action day. And I think Matt could create a letter as well, like what you were describing, and support those new initiatives and what Bruce was talking about, and what Brandon's working on. There's just a lot of really good stuff happening. And Mac wants to be a part of that. And how can we support that and learn from what other people are doing? And I know Representative Omokunde, supports what's going on, and we're really excited that you were able to come. But yeah, we didn't. Somebody in one of the breakouts said, "Well, I'm not sure what the purpose was of the event today." And as MAC, we didn't have a firm second by second goal of what we wanted to get out of this. We just wanted to bring people together because we had a sense that there are a lot of people working on housing, and we all needed to somehow start to connect. And hopefully that's what we accomplished. I know I met a ton of people I didn't know before, and I really appreciate you all being here. I don't know, Brandon, do you want to kind of wrap it up and say some final inspirational words?
Sure. So I wish maybe next month I'd be able to have more discussion and more dialogue with the majority of you folks, because I know this was a coming together of a lot of people with a lot of institutional knowledge that have a desire to make Milwaukee great and to make our societies and our communities function in a much more equitable and loving manner. So I appreciate seeing and being around all you folks. And I know we all have busy lives. So I hope that we take some of our time today to relax, maybe reflect on some idea that we've heard or picked up on today, and get back to work and continue to make this place a better place. So I just want to say thank you and I appreciate you guys. And I'll miss every one of your little faces. Until next time.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.